Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the last hurrah, and I will explain that in a moment. We're off to a real good start because we've already had two pinch hitters. Ken Lasay, who's the chairman of our organization, was supposed to introduce me. However, he had elevated blood pressure a couple of days ago. Doctor told him to stay home for the next couple of days. So he's not here. And so I recruited Don Gustafson. Many of you probably know Don. He's played basketball at Wilson High School and very involved in Life Christian Academy activities. And he showed up here at 12 noon to help us and said, well, I got a problem. I've got a bout of vertigo, and I'm supposed to help you hand out the plaques. And we said, why are you here? Go home. And so he went home. So Todd Cooley just allowed me to recruit him about 5 minutes ago. We inducted Todd into the Tacoma Pierce County Sports Hall of Fame in the softball category this past August. So Todd, thank you. He's up here from Arizona. So thanks for pinch hitting. We've held this event since the early 70s. The Old Timers group actually goes back to the 30s. And the reason for it being the last hurrah is because when you stop and you think about it, how do you really know who the up-and-coming players are coming out of our community? We don't have a newspaper, so who's got scrapbooks? Most of the teams are not community teams. You see some of the old uniforms back there. It says Spanaway, 6th Avenue, K Street, etc. We knew where those guys were coming from, or the ladies were coming from, but not anymore. They're all on all-star teams, or you have a team and it's comprised of players from Bremerton and Olympia and Seattle and wherever. So that's not us, that's not our community. And so it just became that much more difficult to figure out, well, who do we honor? And then I know that when I started with this organization, I was 35. I was a young kid. Now I'm an old timer, and I don't like that connotation. So that was another good reason to just kind of let things go. So that's the reason for this being the last hurrah. But we're excited. I'm really excited because I can see all of you, and I can actually identify who you are because you're not wearing masks. So that's kind of exciting. So you can all take solace in that. Speaking of pinch hitting, and I wanted to give you kind of the true feel of what it was like to be an old timer. So we had a 90-year-old former bat boy who was going to sing the national anthem, and I was really stoked when he agreed. However, he's sick in Arizona, so he had a little better of an excuse. But our third pinch hitter is Angie Franklin. So Angie, come on up. We recruited her a couple of days ago, and she's going to sing the national anthem. So you'd please rise and join us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
Now that's a pinch hitter. Exactly. Play ball, as Michael called it out. Bill Ralston, where are you? Come on up. So next is former Tacoma Twins and Spokane Indians infielder Bill Ralston. He's going to give the invocation. A little bit about Bill. He was drafted by the LA Dodgers in '66, signed to a contract by Tommy Lasorda, played for him in 1971 with the Spokane Indians. In '72, he played for Albuquerque, where they won the PCL championship. You'll recognize some of his teammates, Ron Say, Davey Lopes, Tom Paciorek, Joe Ferguson, and Steve Yeager. And Bill finished his professional career right here in Tacoma, playing 2 seasons with the Tacoma Twins. Bill also served as the chapel leader for the Tacoma Twins, Tugs, Tigers, and Rainiers for 28 years. He did it 8 years as a board member with Reality Sports, a nonprofit sports ministry with a mission to teach excellence in sports skills and one's faith in God. It's a pleasure to have Bill Ralston here.
Well, welcome everybody. Would you just bow in prayer with me and we'll just commit this time to the Lord? Heavenly Father, thank you that we can invoke your name tonight, and thank you for the gifts that you've given each of us. And as the honorees receive awards tonight, just think about the gifts that they were given, and then they honed and they brought glory to you. Lord, we thank you for the food that we've eaten or are eating. We thank you for the servers. They're special to do that, the people that prepared it. And thank you for the planning committee, Mark, and those others that are involved in putting this together. Lord, we just give you the honor for letting us bring your name in front of this group tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Bill. I do want to take a brief moment to thank all of you that participated in the silent auction. Again, those proceeds do help sustain the operation of the Sports Museum. Very important as we try to preserve our local sports history. The newest venture as part of the Sports Museum is the Locker Room Chat. It's a series of interviews that we've been doing for the last several months. You can listen to interviews with Bob Robertson, Doug MacArthur, Clay Huntington, Stan Naccarato, and Ken Still. Now, for some of you, you may remember that Ken actually signed a contract with the Tacoma Twins, and he coached first base for a couple of games back in the 70s. We just finished interviewing Steve Whitaker and Ron Say and Jim Kittlesby. They were absolutely outstanding. You'll laugh if you listen to Steve Whitaker. It was kind of fun when Steve said that he absolutely enjoyed hanging around Mickey Mantle. Hanging around Mickey Mantle was the worst thing for his career. So I encourage you to go on. There's about 12 podcasts on there, and there more will be added. If you're not familiar with who Jim Kittlesby is, Jim came from Montana. He was with the Tacoma Giants the very first year in 1960. He was here for 3 years. Went down to Salt Lake City and was with the Cubs organization there for a couple years. Comes back to Tacoma, then goes to San Francisco with the big club. And then he gets connected with this ill-fated Seattle Pilots. And in the '70s, when the team was moving to Milwaukee, Jim was back in Arizona at spring training. They left him there with all the ball players, and they didn't know where they were going or what was going on. Jim has incredible stories, and he went about an hour and a half in his interview, and it's absolutely fascinating. There's a book called Inside Pitch, and if you're not familiar with that, I encourage you to pick up a copy of Inside Pitch. It was written by a gentleman by the name of Rick Allen, who was with United Way of Pierce County. He's a real baseball nut, and Jim participated in that. It's a great read. The Tacoma Rainiers have supported every one of our old-timers get-togethers, and this year was absolutely no exception, as this year they are our title sponsor. You know, getting major sponsors in this economy is not easy, and so we want to acknowledge and thank Michael Thompson, the newest owner of the Rainiers, 2 key members of his team, I don't see, is Aaron here? Aaron Artman? Aaron couldn't make it. Ashley?
He's being a good dad. He's at a volleyball tournament.
He is being a good dad if he's at a volleyball tournament. You're right. Don't point a finger at me, Tim Thompson. You know. And Ashley Shutt over here, who's the Director of Baseball Operations and Merchandise. So thank you very much for your guys' commitment here. If you know your baseball history, you know it's no surprise that you see the Ben B. Cheney Foundation and the Cheney Stud logos on the cover of your program. Brad Cheney has always been a great supporter and friend of the baseball old-timers, always willing to help out. Same thing holds true for Columbia Bank and Conley Law Offices. And really, when you look at the rest of the ads in there or some of the other programs, almost every one of those sponsors has been involved, or advertisers has been involved with this organization for the last 15 years. So again, a big thanks to all of you, because without you, we just wouldn't be able to pull this off. On page 3, you'll see a list of our committee members. They are scattered about the room here. And again, they're comprised of, there's wives, there's daughters, there's friends of daughters, there's volleyball officials, there's Sports Museum Board members, TAC members. So again, I just want to thank them for coming out here and helping us make this evening special for all of you. I also want to point out, and again, they're listed, I also want to make mention and thank all of the a lot of the News Tribune former sports writers. They have a real penchant for volunteering and doing a lot of the biographical profiles for us. Mike Beers is sitting way back in that corner. We put together 2 videos. We haven't done a video here for a long time, but we have 2 of them that you'll be able to enjoy. Doug Drowley, is Doug here? Where's Doug? Well, Doug Drowley, again, also a former News Tribune sports writer, and Doug put together the script for us. So again, we're just trying to have some fun here with everybody. Finally, I want to mention that thanks to the vision of Clay Huntington and sports enthusiasts such as Ben Cheney, Doug MacArthur, Stan Naccarato, and others, the TAC continues to honor and recognize the accomplishments in a variety of capacities of individuals that have contributed to our local sports heritage. It hit me this past weekend with the news of John Clayton's passing. An individual who was on the News Tribune sports staff in the glory years of their team, racking up national awards on a regular basis. He met his wife at the TNT. Pat was covering bowling. And what great timing it was for us to be able to induct Pat, John, and the entire News Tribune sports staff that was there from '87 to 2000 at our Tribute to Champions event back in August. So again, you know, we thank John for what he did. He was an incredible guy and a lot of fun, and you know, his passing hits us all. So I do want to, are you guys alive out there? I know I'm going to talk a lot, but this is the first time we've ever held one of these banquets where we didn't have to spend 10 minutes trying to get people to sit down. You were already down. You were ready to go. So I apologize for all of the extra talking I'm going to do here, but again, since it's the last time, there's some people that you need to get to know and recognize and appreciate for what they've done over the years. So as I call your name, if you'll stand up and just wave, you're not going to speak. But Doug Sisk is here. Doug won a World Series ring with the New York Mets in '87. Doug, where are you? He's slow on the instructions. Thank you, Doug. He's a great friend of our organization. Aaron Pointer, I know it's hard for you to get up, Aaron, but Aaron Pointer, most of you know, if you read the papers, the last player in professional baseball to hit over 400 for a season, 402, 1961, Salisbury, North Carolina. There's your man, Aaron Pointer. And he will be signing autographs, and he doesn't charge for his autographs. How cool is that? Harry Nygaard. Where's Harry? Harry, where's Harry? I know he's here. Harry, yeah, it'll be slow, but Harry Nygaard, he's going to be 94 on May 10th. He is one of the great icons in baseball history. Went to Stadium, listen to this, two-year baseball team captain at Stadium High School, one-man pitching crew and leading the Tigers to the state championship as a junior in 1946. In a 4-game period over 8 days, threw 36 innings, wins all 4 games, gave up 1 unearned run, struck out 64 in 4 games. For the 11-game season, struck out 147. That averages out to 13.4 Ks per game. Finished with a 0.214 ERA. Harry's one of the great athletes, baseball players to come out of Tacoma. So happy that he could be here. Now, where's Bud Thompson hiding? Come on, Bud. There he is. A youthful 95. He doesn't look like it. Stay up. Come on, come on. This is your moment, Bud. Played for the Hudson AC baseball team. Fast pitch with Wood Realty. Later on, Ben's Truck Parts, which was a fast pitch team. Very talkative catcher. I was talking to Henry Bender. You've met his match right there. In the late 60s, he then started playing senior softball, won a national championship in the 70s, and he finally retired at age 81. One of the great, great fast pitch players, Bud Thompson. And where's Joe Scartini hiding? So I was trying to figure it out. I didn't have a calculator. Are you 88 or 89? 80. We should all look like 80, like Joe does at age 89. But Joe played back in the 50s for Tacoma Athletics, Woodworth Construction, Cheney Studs, multiple senior slow pitch teams. He has, I don't know, he must have 6 senior slow pitch rings, but a great advocate for sports here in Tacoma Pierce County. So Joe, thank you for joining us. And I know this guy is shy, and he probably won't, unwillingly will stand up, so somebody's going to have to push him to stand up, but that's Gordy Pfeiffer. Gordy, where are you? I know. Thank you. Thank you. One of the great all-around athletes in Tacoma Pierce County, national handball champion in the mid-60s and early 70s. He was the key member of a great Heidelberg slow pitch team from the 60s to the early 70s, played back at several national tournaments. We just interviewed Gordy, and he doesn't look like it, but he's 84. And in the course of the interview, somebody said, "So did you just have a good round of golf over at Meadow Park?" "Yeah, I shot par." "Okay, that's not bad. I might shoot 2 pars in one course, in one round." But that's Gordy Pfeiffer, one of the great slow pitch players here in our community. And do we have, let's see here, how about Sam Turnley, Darlene Cartwright, Trina Page, Teddy Bodiger? Ladies, where are you? Stand up. There's 1, there's 2, so there's 3. You know, so we have, these ladies are representing some great eras in women's slow pitch, some women's fast pitch, and was Sam back there? Weren't you on the Cage? So the Cage slow pitch team was the first women's team to go back and qualify for national championships, and Sam was on that team. Was that 66, I think? 66, 65, so thank you, ladies. And then there's some other guys here, Joe Krieger, Dave Carlisle, Dick Sam Laska, Carlos Canny, Wally Brevner, Terry Trowbridge, Bob Grant. Where are you guys? Just stand up real quick, fellas. Oh, and Mr. Zierman. That's the old Heidelberg, remnants of the old Heidelberg slow pitch team from the 70s. So you all have a very extensive souvenir program describing everything you wanted to know and maybe some things you didn't want to know. I'm going to attempt to make some brief introductory remarks about the individuals. I'm going to try not to read the entire program to you, you can do that. The individuals are going to come up. They're going to make some brief remarks. You're going to be on. We have a very effective method that if you're overstaying your time at the mic, then we bring out our bat, and yeah, that's the nice way. That's the clear message. You're done. So thank you, Todd. You can put it down. And afterwards, we are retiring that bat. So if anybody wants to make a XYZ contribution to the Sports Museum, they can take that bat home with them. Or I'll take it home and you can pick it up another day. So it is very, very easy had to consult my expert here.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you did good. Well, there was one other reason I wanted to explain to you. Well, no, that's all right. We'll bypass that one. Very easy to overlook the accomplishments of a lot of individuals. But this afternoon, this last get-together, we wanted to tip our cap and say congratulations to a number of individuals and groups for their contributions to baseball and softball. So we're starting with what's called tipping the cap on page 54. And we need those individuals, there they are, come on over. Tony, you can stay right here. Over on the other side. So, wasn't a great way to start yesterday when I realized that the Sister City Exchange Program was not in the souvenir program, which is why you have an addendum. However, at least we caught it. Sister City Exchange Program, tremendous program. Tony was instrumental in getting that program started off the ground, working closely with Joe Kosai and Tak Ikeda, nurturing it along for so many years. So pleased to have Tony here to share with you a little bit about the Sister City Exchange Program. Tony Anderson.
Thank you, Mark. First, if I may just take Trina, please stand up. Trina Page. We started at White River High School Hall of Fame, and last week we inducted Trina into the Hall of Fame. She is personally responsible for starting and running girls' sports when Title IX came across the plate. So Trina, thank you, and I tip my hat to you, Trina. Well, you know, everything we do, it's about the team. Tak Ikeda, Hiroshi Yasukawa, Joe Kosai, and those that were there in the very beginning in 1987 started a great program. Through the lifespan of this program, we've had over 1,000 young people from Tacoma Pierce County in Japan take part, go across the waters, and they thought that they were coming to play international baseball. Really, this program, we just used the game of baseball as the vehicle to put together the cultural and educational program, which is the most important part of what we did. Then the happy byproduct was they got to play baseball. But because they were coming to try out for the team and so forth, they thought it was just about baseball. Those involved, Roy Young, Sean McDougall, please stand. Anyone else that was involved in the program that I don't see, please stand up. Roy was a longtime coach, and Sean was as well. We couldn't do it without them, and I just tip my hat to all of you here today to take part in this last hurrah. But again, anything we accomplish in life is never accomplished alone, but together. So thank you all for being here with us together to enjoy this wonderful afternoon. And Mark, thank you. When we were producing the book, or publishing the book, Playgrounds to the Pros, 3 o'clock in the morning, Mark would send me an email, because I was president of TAC at the time, and I would answer him back. And he'd go, "What are you doing at?" I said, "Well, what are you doing at?" We were both working because of the dedication. No one's been more dedicated to baseball and sports, I don't think, in the community than Mark. So Mark, thank you so much.
Oh, all right. Congratulations.
Thanks, Tony. Bill Ruth passed away in September, and although not a Pierce County resident, he spent considerable time and money in promoting senior slow pitch in our area, and for his efforts, we felt it was appropriate to recognize him for his contributions to the sport. It's his fault that George Grant is not here today, because 84-year-old George is down in Arizona playing senior slow pitch. So we thank Bill for his contribution to the game. Quinn Walcott is also not here. He's got the best excuse because he's at spring training umpiring a game. At age 28 in 2014, the youngest umpire on the Major League Baseball roster at that time, this will be starting his 9th year as an MLB umpire. So we congratulate Quinn as the only Major League umpire from Pierce County. Kevin, you want to come on up? Ron Zolo was the longest tenured employee in the history of Tacoma Minor League Baseball, 23 years as an assistant general manager. And here to recognize him is another assistant general manager of baseball operations, Kevin Kalal.
Thanks, Mark. Well, I have the wonderful privilege and honor to accept this honor for Ron Zolo. And Ron, if you ever got a chance to meet him, Ron was a big part of the success of Baseball Tacoma, Inc. and that group. And what the couple things, if you want a good story about Zolo, you have to ask Bob Christopherson. He's got the good stories. But there's 2 things I want to share with you that I knew of Ron. One, Ron did such an amazing job of connecting small businesses back to our community and to the ballpark, and he was a wonderful salesperson. But I think of the people who I worked with when Ron was there, we just miss his friendship. Ron is just an amazing friend, and the person who should be accepting this award in his behalf would be Frank Colarusso. And Frank and I and Bob and Mark had some stories the other day, and a lot of stories come back to Ron, and we miss Ron. And he was just such a wonderful person. He did so many things at the ballpark, from being the public address announcer to his sports memorabilia, and he just touched a lot of lives. So on behalf of former Tacoma employees and now the Tacoma Rainiers, I appreciate the committee for recognizing Ron Zolo's lifetime commitment to baseball. Thank you.
I was going to try not to do this, but he's talking about Ron Zolo, what a great guy he was. So I collect baseball memorabilia, and I happen to acquire a 1978 Tacoma Yankees championship ring. And I go into the office, and I'm pretty excited. And I'm showing it to Frank, and Ron comes walking in. He says, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's the 78 championship ring from Darryl Jones." He takes a look and says, "That's a fake." And my heart just absolutely dropped because I figured he would know. Anyway, that was also part of Ron. Nick Tucci started as an usher in 1960, the first year of the Tacoma Giants. And then he moved into the job as a ticket taker, and everybody recognized Nick because of this. This was Nick, and this is his hat. Nick passed away in January, but as Nick put it, and Gloria, come on up. Gloria's his wife, and oftentimes it was not unusual that you would see Gloria at the taking tickets along with Nick. Nick would oftentimes, in an interview, Nick told the TNT, they like to come to the main gate so they can see me. Not the third base side, not the first base side, but the main gate. But Nick was just such a gentle soul and really the face of Tacoma baseball for so many years. So, Gloria, it's all yours.
Please accept my sincere thanks to the Tacoma Pierce County Baseball Softball Old-Timers, especially you, Mark, for honoring my husband, Nick Tucci, with the Tipping the Cap Award. Nick always enjoyed his tender at Cheney Stadium, starting as an usher and then ticket taker for the Tacoma Giants, Cubs, Twins, Yankees, Tugs, Tigers, and Rainiers, including working the Goodwill games, which he considered an extreme privilege. This award will always have a place of honor in our home. Thank you so much.
Ken Higdon spent almost 10 years working for the Tacoma Yankees, Tugs, and Tigers as a bat boy and later on as a clubhouse attendant before earning a nice position with the California Angels, Anaheim Angels organization. Ken passed away 5 years ago following a routine surgery, but joining us today from her home in Sandpoint, Idaho is his widow, Sabrina.
It's really an honor to be here accepting this for Ken. The only info I got on this is be quick, so I'm going to give you a little information. Ken, it is an honor to be here, I said that. Ken was so proud of his time here in Tacoma, and he always spoke about his roots at Cheney Stadium and everything he learned in the clubhouse. It seems like Stan Nacarado did an amazing thing giving Ken a job, and maybe the city as well. I learned about all the mischievous activities he got into, and got him off the streets of the city. Some of the things he did, like stealing beer from the clubhouse, from the concession stand. Apparently there was a tunnel that went from the laundry room onto the stadium directly to the beer tap. And if anybody wants to recoup those dollars, there's a couple of guys in the back that were part of that conspiracy. Take them on. By the time I met Ken in 2003, he was the clubhouse manager for the Angels, and I was selling sponsorships. He had the job dialed in, and I think people really took for granted just how much was involved in running a clubhouse. I didn't take it for granted, I just took advantage of it. I was trying to win big sponsorships, so I went to Ken and said, here's what I need. I need you to take Corbell and put it in the clubhouse for those playoff wins. You know, you're shooting all, spraying the champagne. I need it to be Corbell. He'd say, okay, Sabrina, whatever. He wasn't happy about it, he would do it anyway. How we actually started dating was really a meet cute kind of story. I was taking sponsors to New York in 2008, got in the middle of the night. There's Ken standing there in the sidewalk with all this luggage around him. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, we just got in, came in from another city, we have the team in town, just got to get the luggage off to the players. I said, I have an opportunity here, taking advantage of Ken again. I invited him to dinner with me and my clients. He was always much better than players because he had amazing stories. He could talk about the players, tell stories about players, plus all the other exciting things he'd done in his life. Half of them I didn't really believe, like, you know, celebrities he might have met, adventures he'd been on. I thought they were BS. But in the 5 years since his passing, I've really got to experience going through his memorabilia. I'm still doing that. Learning of his memories, I'm like, wow, these things actually did happen. It's been pretty exciting and interesting. But he did live a really incredible life, his 30-plus years in baseball. And it all started here in Tacoma as a bat boy for the Tacoma Yankees. So thank you so much. This really means a lot.
And if you would like Sabrina to send you a link to some of the incredible memorabilia that she is looking to part with. It's pretty extensive. A lot of autographed jerseys and the whole bit. John Tomasi's notoriety was as a bat boy for the 1948 Tacoma Tigers team that played in the Western International League. He clearly found a way to stay connected to the sport as a longtime umpire for baseball, fast pitch, and slow pitch softball for over 30 years. Here to accept his award is his widow, Patricia, and daughter, Carla. Right over there.
Well, John would be thrilled with this. He's been gone about 4 years now, but we really appreciate it. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Don Mooney was a bat boy for the 1947 Tacoma Tigers, and in the program you can see that he was lucky. He had his own baseball card. The KMO put out a whole series of baseball cards that one season. Don is the individual who was going to sing the national anthem. Loves to sing. When I asked his daughter Susan if she thought he'd be willing to sing the national anthem, she didn't even hesitate. She said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." But then again, he got sick. He's down in Phoenix recuperating. Susan was definitely not willing to replace him as the singer, but at least she's here to accept the award on behalf of her dad. So Susan, come on up.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here. It's sure an honor to be here to represent my dad, who was really sad that he couldn't be here. One, because he knew there were going to be a lot of people here that he had spent years around in the sports family. And two, because he was looking forward to singing the national anthem up here, which is really his second passion. I'm just curious, how many softball and baseball coaches are out here in the audience that have coached a team? If you can just raise your hand, I'm just curious. So I got the honor to play 3 years for my dad at Foss High School, but he coached me all throughout my youth and up until high school, where he coached at Foss High School for about 10 years. And for you coaches, my dad was a fundamental coach. He was all about doing things the right way. So, funny story about my dad and a memory that I treasure is my senior year up at Foss, we were playing Mount Tahoma, who was just loaded during the 80s. And I was up to bat. I got a little dinker hit out to right field that the right fielder misplayed. So being the good fundamental player that I was, I can see she's bobbled the ball. I've taken off for second base and look over to my dad, who's at third base, and my dad is the biggest exaggerator when he is coaching. I mean, he's got the windmill going, and he's over there jumping, and it's pouring rain at this point, and they should have called the game. But I'm rounding second base, and I look over to my dad and to see if I got a slide or not, and it's raining, it's messy, and I look up, and my dad is, doing the big get down, and when he does it, he falls flat on his face. And this man does not miss a beat because he is lying on his belly, he's watching the ball, and he's telling me to run home because the ball has got past the third baseman. But the man just had a passion for sports, and he just gave himself to those kids up there for 10 years. And not only did he coach softball up there, but also coached basketball up there for an assistant up there for about 10 years. So, I wish he could have been here. He always talks about his memories with the Tacoma Tigers and the Tacoma Rockets and his time up at Foss. So I'm gonna happily accept this for him. Thanks for hearing my story, because it's the memories that matter when you're playing team sports. Nobody remembers the scores or who won the championship, but it's the time that you spent with your teammates and luckily for me, my dad. So, thank you.
My mind is always working. I'm not a member of the Tacoma Rainiers staff, but tell me if I'm wrong, but aren't you occasionally looking for somebody to sing the national anthem? You have a 90-year-old who would love to sing the national anthem. And Susan, are you hearing that?
Yep.
And if you would like her contact information, I know I will be there, and I know there's a whole bunch of people that might come and join. And if you need a copy of his baseball card, I can take care of that. So anyway, just food for thought. So is Tad Brown here? This is an interesting story. Tad, come on up, and actually let's go ahead and bring the other team up. Nice going. Here, let's just, yeah, you hold on to that. Interesting story about the South Tacoma Tigers. They won the 1915 team. They won the City League, and they were somehow anointed as the Pacific Coast champions, although nobody really knew how that all came about. And trust me, I did some research, and it's really hard to figure out exactly how that all came about. But the National Amateur Baseball Association, they held a national championship series. They invited the Tigers to come by ship, excuse me, come by ship to San Francisco to play the White Autos of Cleveland. White Autos of Cleveland beats them 2-1. So I'm researching the history of the team. I recognize the name of Alan Brown, who was from the community, was involved with Washington Hardware, which is a big sporting goods supplier back in the teens and 20s. And Alan played for the South Tacoma Tigers, among other teams. And so I knew a relative of a relative, and I called him up to get more information. I got some great photos. And then I find out that, oh, we have the trophy. And I said, you mean to tell me a trophy exists from the 1915 series? And it says, it's inscribed, it says, I think it says Pacific Coast Champions 1915. And this is Tad Brown, and Tad, right? Pacific Coast Champions 1915. And Tad is the grandson of Alan Brown. And this trophy has only been out in public that I know of one other time, which was when, I think it was in 2011, we did Fango Round at Cheney Stadium when the new ballpark was open. And they were gracious enough to let us put this on display. And like I said, it doesn't come out here very often, but it's really it's really a cool story, a first national championship or series. So Tad, thank you for coming. Come on up and say something.
Thank you. I am Alan Brown. My father was Alan Brown, and my grandfather was Alan Brown. What are the odds of that? So, my grandfather left me 4 things. Number 1, his snappy derby, which hasn't seen the light of day for 75 years. Number 2, his old signet ring, which I've had on my hand for half a century. Number 3, catch that? You want to read the name on that?
Yes, it says official league ball. Oh, you're talking about the one here that says Babe Ruth?
Babe Ruth, that's right. So this Babe Ruth gave this to my grandfather, and old Babe got retired 4 innings in a row when they played the Tacoma Tigers. But number 4 is far more important, more valuable than any of those things. Number 4 is a legacy. Legacy not in the terms of property or inheritance, but legacy in the sense of who a man was and the character that he had and the influence that he had on his children and his children's children, myself, my children, and their children. The whole metaphor of sports as a crystallization of the struggles of life is tremendous, and how we put our all into it, and we struggle, and we fight, and we win gloriously, or we lose gracefully, and learn to treat these two imposters both the same. I'd like to tip my hat, his hat, to the gentlemen that were in this, and to all those who in this room who are here because they know someone or they are someone that inspires that kind of character in their family and friends. God bless us all.
Now, Tad, you earlier agreed to stick around afterwards, so if anybody wants to have a picture taken with that trophy, you're going to be around for a little bit afterwards. I don't think there's too much that I could say about the 1980 NEAA Tacoma Longshoremen team, other than the fact that they finished with a perfect 32-0 record, winning the Connie Mack State Championship to cap off an incredible season. So we're going to bring up player Mike Stortini to accept the honors on behalf of his teammates and coaching staff. Mike?
Thank you, Mark. So we got about, not quite half our team here. We have one player who's deceased, Todd Slingland. Some of you might know that name from Potts High School. And some other guys that don't live around here. But want to first introduce each player. I want to mention each guy that we were, Mark Blau mentioned earlier that we just don't have teams like this anymore. We were totally, I think the word used, Mark, was community, a community team. We all were Tacoma High School players, a mix of mostly Wilson. Half the team was Wilson, a couple Stadium, couple Foss, and a Bellarmine kid. And so we're not like a lot of these teams today where you have kids literally all over Western Washington on one select team. We were, we just had a lot of good baseball players. That's all we did. We didn't have, you know, social media and cell phones and Xbox. We just, all of our free time was spent playing baseball, jumping over the Heidelberg fence after the groundskeeper got the fields ready that day. We'd jump over the fence and go play and help ourselves. So I want to introduce each player. Just raise your hand, guys, at the end. Rick Nordy, Wilson High School. Sean McDougall, Stadium High School. I've always said, and I still believe, the greatest defensive catcher ever to come out of Tacoma High Schools. Greg Leach. Greg is actually going to be back up here again, getting inducted as a player. He was the MVP of our state tournament. And Kurt Mueller, Stadium High School, and Darren Waltier, Wilson High School. I'm Mike Stortini, Wilson High School. And we were a well-coached team. We didn't beat teams 12-0, 12-10 to 1. We would win 2-0, 3-1. We could hit the ball when we needed to, but we had great pitching. One guy that's not here, maybe the best player I ever played with, Kevin Stock. You probably West Stockton, probably heard of him. He was on our team. I just remember the start of the season, a game we should have won 15-0. We won, I think, in extra innings, or the last inning, I forget. And I always remember this every year at this time of the year. On May 18th, our coaches were yelling at us, you know, well, you got your heads, get your heads out of the sky and play the game. Well, Mount St. Helens had just erupted like an hour before the game, and so everybody is just, you know, looking up at the sky the whole entire game, just, you know, enamored with that. But I was lucky to have my dad, who's already been introduced, Joe Stortini, as one of our coaches. Greg's dad, Dan Leach, who's passed away, and our head coach was a guy named Tom Lazat. Some of you might know. He was the head coach, and he's also passed away. But we had a great team. We had a lot of fun, and we've been, it's good to see these guys together talking about old times. So thank you very much to the Tacoma Athletic Commission for this award. And I got to hand the mic up for 3 seconds to Darren Waltier. He has something here.
About Todd. And so I didn't know I was going to bring the props up again today. I'm Darren Waltier, and I did bring something that I've owed Mike since back when we played that championship year. He loaned me some Scorpions albums, and I finally was able to dig them out of my parents' garage, find them. They're preserved in plastic, and so I've got them back over there in a sack that I'll give Mike later. That's the one thing he's most excited about today. And then secondly, our friend Todd Slingman passed about 5 years after our state championship run. He was just graduating from Central Washington University, and also found out with Mike's albums. Surprising, but thank you.
All right, thanks.
Throughout the 1970s and into the early 80s, Little Jim's Pub was well known as one of the top 3 dominating 14-inch, or big ball as we called it, slow pitch teams in Pierce County. There was minimal turnover in the team. Over the years, many of them still stay in touch. Simply put, they were extremely talented, very tough to beat, and as soon as they found out that they were being honored, it was a good reason to convene on several occasions at the Cloverleaf Tavern. I don't know what they were strategizing about, but it really didn't matter. One other note, be sure to turn to page 51 and check out the ad for Little Jim's Pub. We have the longtime owner. Which one is Jim? Jim Martin? He's not here? Oh, well, even more reason. Jim was supposed to be here because Jim was the sponsor and the owner. And you'll notice that Jim got a hold of me ahead of time and invited everybody to stop by the pub for $1.25 pitchers, as is advertised on page 51 in that ad. The only problem is that ad was from back in the 1970s. The pub no longer exists, so you're gonna have to track down Jim to take care of that commitment. I was told that Chuck Headman McMillan would be the speaker for the team, a Wilson and WSU grad. Chuck was the pitcher for Little Jim's Pub and an original team member. Apparently, he was this is one of his teammates, a savage competitor and a brilliant trash talker who loved to get into the hitters' heads, thus the nickname. I thought that he was born with Headman as his middle name, but now I know that it's not true. So anyway, we have, who do we have that's going to be here to speak? Chuck, you got the honors. Little Jim's Pub, Chuck McMillan.
Number one, the story is misleading. Number one, being up here, is really all about Doc Hoff for 50 years, the greatest. I met him at WSU in '65. I was a freshman, he's a senior, and we got the big intramural championship. And I look at this guy out there, and he's running down the field, he's the quarterback, and a rough guy. And I said, who's this guy? Well, he had just started vet school. Well, then kept in touch. 4 years later, we graduate as he graduates, and he started this ball club. He was a legend around Tacoma, unknown legend, like all you guys, but he was kind of hidden in the North End at Little Jim's Pub and the Cloverleaf. But he gave all kinds of advice to people. Some was wise, some wasn't. Just a wonderful guy. For 50 years, he volunteered coached elementary kids, junior high kids, high school kids. Never got paid for it, just did it. He was at all the tournaments and so on. He was also the type of guy that if you really needed help, he'd do it for you. We're here for him, okay? Now, the stories that we could tell about each of these guys, there's plenty. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to do that. I'll introduce each guy, and then if I got a little time left, I'll try to get together and maybe tell you a couple great stories about Doc Hoff, because this is all about him. John Bilski. Daddy. Big hitter. Larry Lusich, one time jumped over the fence at Peck Field because he was working for the phone company and he was late to the game. Tommy Rogers, still at the University of Washington, would come home for the weekend to play, and the guys up there couldn't figure it out. Amazing. Next guy, TB, Terry Burns, from Spokane. Great guy. We met him at, unfortunately, the bar, or actually it was at Curtis High School, playing Tuesday night. Doc asked him to come in, and he hated us because a bunch of us were in one fraternity, he was in the other one, and we were rivals, but turned out to be a brother. Ollie Carmichael, known as Phil, UW guy, had to sit on the bench for a year because Dude Manning was still in the starting lineup until he left us and went to Sons of Italy. Beaver Hoff, one of the legendary Hoff brothers, helped us whenever we needed help, and he was kind of a utility guy, but mainly keeping score. Although he had to fight with Frank Thompson and Eddie Pouchard's dad, Bud, to make sure their batting averages were higher than they should have been. So, Dude, again, giving Dude double rewards for that because you were part of this. Next, Mo Manning, a legend in his own time. Mo, show that hand there. He's going up to try to keep a ball inside the park, gets cut, missed the ball. I got a losing game. Well, after that, for about 6 months, when you didn't play a game at Peck Field, you sat outside the park. Doc Hoff, because he actually had to have stitches, Doc Hoff would stand out there and hand by hand with the pliers pulled down so nobody else would have their hand get cut because it was kind of the top of, not barbed wire, but the other thing sticking up. So Mo, even though you didn't save the game for me, you made Doc a bigger legend. Logs Hoff, another one of the great Hoff brothers. Utility player, and even better after the game when we're sitting there exaggerating our stories. And the third strongest guy on the team, Howard Hughes, who's not here, 747, Rick Keeley, is in Arizona. Second strongest on the team was Hughes. Tim Thompson was number 1, and that's our next guy here, legend out of Tacoma in sports. And got me out of numerous, my mouth got in the way activities. That's our ball club. I got to say a couple more things, and then the next person's on stage. Doc, you're the best. I love you. We all love you. It's all about you.
Right on here.
Henry, you're the best.
Thank you, Todd. Good job. Rowdy group. So our next group of honorees are our umpires, followed by the broadcasters. Greg Bolton is one of our top slow pitch and fast pitch umpires in the state. He's worked multiple state and national tournaments since 1996. Also refereed volleyball for 21 years. Greg, come on up. And that is Greg with a G, not with a C.
I really got nothing to say, just play ball.
Now, there's a man who understands what 1 minute means. Good job, Greg. You can come back next year if you're going to do that. Melody Fox spent over 30 years umpiring baseball and softball games at all levels of competition, as well as refereeing basketball games in her spare time. She was also an active participant in numerous sports, including hockey. Now, I happen to have inside information. The reason there's hockey is because I was working at Sprinker Recreation Center. Melody was working at Sprinker, so she had access to the ice on a regular basis. So, Melody Fox.
Well, I participated in sports for over 50 years, and I officiated sports, basketball and softball primarily, for over 4 decades. So I appreciate being recognized for this award and this association. And I do relate to the old timers.
Yes, you do. And I might mention that she is a longtime season ticket holder for the Tacoma Rainiers, right? There we go. Lola Maroney started umpiring in 1973. In 1991 and 92, she was selected to umpire the Women's Slow Pitch Nationals in Oregon. Also refereed basketball, volleyball, active participant in just about all sports. She's not here today, so we'll make sure that she gets properly recognized. So I was reading Mike Curto's bio, and he has really seen a lot and described a lot during his tenure in Tacoma. Several championship seasons, home runs over the Green Monster, no hitters, the first 9-inning perfect game, players like Felix Hernandez and others moving their way up to the Mariners. So, you know, you probably should have been the MC tonight, not me. Yeah, I know. That's why I didn't ask, because I knew what I was going to get. But Mike, congratulations on a great career. Come on up. Mike Curto.
Thanks. I want to thank the association for honoring me. It's awesome. I really appreciate it. We have a real gem here in Tacoma in Cheney Stadium. It's a tremendous AAA ballpark. Great place to spend a summer night with your family. When they remodeled it, I guess now 12 years ago, they really did a great job, and it's a real gem at the AAA level. It's a fun place to work, a great place to call the office. And one of the fun things about being there every day is just seeing the players and watching the games and seeing players grow over their time in Tacoma. And sometimes they're Rainiers players, watching a 19-year-old Felix Hernandez dominate AAA hitters on his way to a long, successful major league career, you know, and getting to see that every 5 days is so much fun. Seeing someone like Adam Jones, an everyday outfielder, 2 years, he played almost every game for 2 years for Tacoma, just got better and better and better. You could see him grow, and then he's a 5-time All-Star in the major leagues. And then seeing opposing players, you hear about them coming in and then they do something special, like Chris Bryant was a hyped prospect and he hit one halfway up the fence at center field at Cheney and becomes a major league superstar not much longer after that. In the first game I ever called at Cheney Stadium in 1999, David Ortiz beat the Rainiers with a 2-run homer onto the Foss High School hill in the 8th inning. And here we are today, and he's being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Not this Hall of Fame, different Hall of Fame. But I want to thank Kevin Kalau and the general manager at the time, Mel Taylor, and the owner, George Foster, who brought me to Tacoma in 1999, really took a chance. I was an A-ball and kid from California, no ties to the area, and now this is home. I want to thank some longtime Rainiers employees, Patty Stacy and Ashley Shutt, who's here today, and also former Rainiers general manager Dave Lewis, and current GM Aaron Artman, and also Michael Thompson, who's become a really good steward of AAA baseball in Tacoma. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mike. Jerry Howarth broadcast the Tacoma Twins in 1974. Ultimately spent 36 years as the Toronto Blue Jays broadcaster before retiring in 2018. He wrote the following: My health does not allow me to travel anymore, as I just do not have the strength and stamina and or the voice to do much except stay close to home now, which is in Toronto. I do enjoy it with my wife, Mary, of 50 years and counting. Please tell everyone I am sorry I cannot come out, but I will certainly be thinking of all of you. Tacoma has a very special place in my heart, as that is really where it all started for me. I am so grateful. I loved every minute for the 2 years we lived there with so many sweet memories. And if you go to, again, you go to the Sports Museum website, it's called the Clay Huntington Broadcast Center. And on that broadcast center are approximately 40 of the broadcasters of all sports in Tacoma Pierce County. And so you can go onto that and you will hear Jerry Howard, Mike Curto, Don Hill, Bob Robertson, the whole gamut of sports broadcasters. And every now and then they would have, Bob Robertson's real good about putting together a reunion of broadcasters. So you'd turn on the radio and Bob would be dealing with personalities of 3 or 4 of the broadcasters, and they were just talking about every imaginable experience. One year they had Don Hill, who's the original broadcaster for the Giants. He broadcasted half an inning in Japanese, and anyway, it's kind of fun. If you don't have anything to do, sit back, dial them up. There's all kinds. You really get a kick out of these. You're going to get a kick out of this next individual. You're going to go down and take that. It's Bill Doan. Bill, I know where you are. Raise your hand. See him right front and center. So, one of my all-time favorites. Bill Doan was the Tacoma Twins broadcaster in 1973. But more importantly, this guy is having way too much fun for an almost 86-year-old former broadcaster. His birthday's in April. He was pretty overwhelmed when informed that he was going into the Old Timer Broadcaster Hall of Fame with such greats as Clay Huntington, Don Hill, Bob Robertson, alongside Jerry and Mike. Bill actually taught broadcasting right here on the campus of Clover Park Tech. And so this is kind of a reunion for him because 2 of his former students showed up to be here and share this honor with him. When he found out that they were coming, he kept reminding them, we need to get there at 2 o'clock, and you cannot wear jeans. Constantly, every time we talk. I've already talked to them. I told them, we're being there at 2 o'clock. They better not be wearing jeans. They got your message. They got your message. Bill, old school, went out and got a nice sport coat. You look awesome. He didn't want to come up here because he is enjoying his continued health and wants to keep it that way, and that's cool. Bill called me just about every other day, or so it seemed, when he found out about his induction. I'm not sure who was more excited, him to be inducted or me being able to listen to Bill be so thrilled and appreciative of this honor. He called me one day to chat and he says, hey, I said, Bill, how you doing? I'm just being my ultra cool, groovy self. That is a direct quote. That is Bill Doan, 80, almost 6 years old. Then he proceeded to let me know that he had his comments down, and he was kind of worried. I got my comments down to 1 minute and 33 seconds. I said, Bill, he says, is that okay? And I said, yeah, we can handle that, Bill. Well, I have one more story. So he gave me this story, and it's pretty cool. It's the joke about umpires. So I said, Bill, you're on. You got a full 2 minutes. I'm making an audible. So happy to have Bill Doan here, broadcasting Old Timers Hall of Fame. Bill, congratulations. Let's hear your 2 minutes, which I know is going to go 3. And look, as long as you tell those jokes as good as you did to me, you can have it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark Blau. You know what, man? One for you, we wouldn't be here. Thanks very much. Thanks to Jerry Howard, the great broadcaster. I can't believe I'm going into this thing with Jerry. Not here, but great man. know, Satchel Paige, that great pitcher, he said, I never worked a day in my frickin' life. I just played baseball. You did, Satch, you did it well. You know, there's a difference in these sports. A lot of people think it's the ball, the size and shape of the ball. I think it's where you go to see the ball. You go to a gym, you see 7-foot-tall guys playing basketball, scoring most of the points. You go to a football game. You're at a stadium. I'm going to sit down here. You're at a stadium. 22 guys running around trying to kill each other. You go to a baseball game, you go to a park. A park. A guy said a long time ago, he said, you know what? You want to know a little bit more about the United States of America? Go to the ballpark. You will see it all. After church one day, I went to the preacher and I said, Preacher, is there baseball in heaven? And that preacher